and very pleased to have with us on the program once again Congressman Blake Farenthold from the wonderful state of Texas. Congressman, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening. So we're renaming the show the Fast and Furious Show instead of Cam and Company?
That's right. Well, look, we've got to make up the slack from the mainstream media. Do you realize, Congressman, not one of the big three networks tonight even mentioned this hearing today?
It's really disappointing. And, it's understandable, though, because they're into short sound bites. And to understand what went on in Fast and Furious, you actually got to spend a couple minutes understanding the issues and what happened. It's not something like a tape of a politician slipping up that they can just play and pound the drums. It's something, you got to be a little studious about.
Maybe if you were to dangle a statistic like less than 47% of the guns that were allowed to walk in Fast and Furious have been recovered, maybe that would get the media's attention.
Well, it might. They probably only care about 47%, but.
So what is your take on what we heard from the Inspector General today? I mean, it seemed like there were a couple of pretty important statements that he made, pointing out that yes, Justice could have done more, should have done more, and that the Attorney General himself probably should have known more.
I think the should have known is important because in real life, as opposed to government life, very often you're held accountable for what you should have known. If my employees misbehave, I'm going to end up taking some responsibility for it. And the same is true in business, and the same is true pretty much everywhere else in life.
Absolutely. Now, Congressman, we've got a couple of minutes of the hearing today. Your questions for the Inspector General. Do you mind if we play this?
No, go ahead, because I think what I was after, and I hope my questions got to it, was yes, this report is a good start, but it doesn't get to the bottom of everything.
All right, well, let's take a listen to some of Representative Farenthold's questions for the Inspector General earlier today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And, Mr. Inspector General, I apologize if I sound terse or hostile. I'm a huge fan of the Inspector General program, think it's a great asset, but there do remain some questions that I've gotten in my office about, is this investigation just the fox guarding the hen house? I think your report does go into great depth, but I do want to hit the outlines of it and some things that may lead to where we need to go further in this committee in continuing to investigate Fast and Furious. So my first question is, the Supreme Court has made very clear with respect to executive privilege, there's not an unqualified presidential privilege. The deliberative process privilege requires that the protective material be both limited to communications occurring before the policy adoption and deliberately reflecting the process by which the policy alternatives are assessed at the highest level. As you know, the President has claimed executive privilege to a broad group of documents this committee has subpoenaed, some of which I imagine that you looked at in your investigation. You've had access to thousands more documents than we have. My first question is, roughly how many of these documents, in your opinion, would be covered by executive privilege?
Congressman, we fortunately didn't have to make a decision about what we thought was or was not within executive privilege, because our decision right at the outset was to ask for all the documents that we needed. We got them, and to include them in the report.
Right, but y'all looked at them.
We looked at everything.
Gut feeling, then, if you can't answer specifically, were there some in there covered by executive privilege?
I don't know that. That was never our call. We were never shared with any information about that.
All right. You noted also in your report that the White House refused to share internal communications with you during your investigation of Fast and Furious. We've noted a connection into the White House through Kevin O'Reilly at the National Security Council. Do you think the White House's refusal to share these documents limited the scope of your investigation, and would this committee be well served by pursuing an investigation in that avenue?
Well, as we noted in the report, and as you know, Congressman, we did not get internal communications from the White House, and Mr. O'Reilly's unwillingness to speak to us made it impossible for us to pursue that angle of the case and the question that had been raised.
So it would probably be worthwhile for us to pursue.
Well, certainly we have sought to pursue every lead we could. So I can just tell you from our standpoint, it was a lead we wanted to follow.
Thank you very much. And is Mr. Barton pointed out, I'm sorry, Mr. Burton pointed out, the DOJ has been accused of cooperating with outside groups like Media Matters for advice and spin on stories, so they'll come out in a positive manner. And I imagine the press office and all of the DOJ is concerned about that. It actually kind of troubles me that there is such a political facet to what goes on in the DOJ. Of all the executive agencies, you would hope DOJ would be the one most above politics. But my question is, do you know if the DOJ shared this report prior to its release yesterday with any outside groups, or who within the DOJ that would have made substantive changes to the report?
We provided, for purposes of our comment and review, a draft of the report to the department. We allowed the department internally to share it with people who had relevant information, but to tightly control who saw it, and that it was not to be shared outside the department.
Okay, so to the best of your knowledge, Media Matters didn't vet this.
They should not have, and if they had been allowed to see, it would have been a viation of the understanding that we had about the review.
All right, great. Now,
let's go back to Congressman Farenthold live here. And Congressman, let's talk about what you just mentioned, because I thought both of those were really interesting points. First of all, the White House did not allow a lead to be pursued.
Troubling. Now, the problem is the Inspector General statute limits the scope of what the Inspector General can do, primarily the stuff within the agency the Inspector General is involved in. So there was no legal requirement that the White House cooperate with the Inspector General, but I would think there would be a strong political reason for them to, certainly if they had nothing to hide.
Right, absolutely right. And then you asked about the, if not coordination, the collaboration, the involvement, and the relationship between Media Matters for America and the communication shop at the Department of Justice. You said this is something that really concerns you. I'm curious, Congressman, is this something that you think the House Oversight Committee is going to be looking into further?
I spoke to Chairman Issa on the floor today, and he indicated it was an avenue that he wanted to pursue, and I think he said that publicly on a Fox News interview early this morning.
All right. Now, speaking of Fox News, by the way, our listeners can get up bright and early tomorrow morning and catch you on Fox and Friends?
I flew up to New York. I'm actually standing looking at Radio City Music Hall, about to grab a quick dinner before I'm on at 5:15 Central, 6:15 Eastern on Fox and Friends. Kind of a bucket list checkoff to be on the curvy couch. Now, not sliding NRA radio,
hey,
mind you.
Listen,
but,
that's okay. It's on my bucket list too, Congressman, and I'm glad you get to cross it off of yours. Enjoy your appearance tomorrow morning. Thank you so much for your time tonight, and look forward to talking again very soon.
all right, good talking to you, Cam.
All right, thank you, sir. And by the way, put some salt on your food if you're eating in New York City. You're not going to have enough. They're not going to give you enough.
Yeah, I ate some hot sauce.
There you go, and a big old Coca-Cola. Congressman Blake Farenthold joining us from Texas this evening.